Hey guys, welcome back to Wide Open Moto Garage. Today I am just doing some work here on a 2001 CR250 and we are replacing the crank and all of the bearings. So from both sides we've got all the bearings are going to get replaced, and all the seals and gaskets and top end and all of that stuff. But I'm going to do a quick tool review today of a couple of the tools that I use when I am installing and removing bearings. Obviously, some of the ones that I'm pulling out, such as this one, I'll just put a socket in there and hammer it out with a hammer. But when you're putting a bearing back in, sometimes you want to have a little bit more of a specialized tool. So for that, I like to use this press tool. Basically, you take a hammer, you set it in there with one of these on there, and you hammer it down to hammer in your bearing. So this comes in handy. It takes away the risk of you ruining a bearing by using a socket. So great tool to be installing bearings. As far as removing, like I said, you can use a socket and just use a socket and hammer them out. That works fine. You're not worried about trying to keep the bearing. You're going to end up throwing it away. But for a blind hole, where you have a blind hole in a case, such as this one, if you can see, there's nowhere to take it out on the other side. So that's called a blind bearing. And basically there's a tool we use here, and I'm sure everybody else does too. Basically looks just like this. It's called a blind bearing tool. And what you have is different sizes for different size bearings that you're going to use, and a slide hammer. So basically the concept of this is that you're going to just take this piece, attach it to your slide hammer, and this part's going to go down below your bearing. It's not the right size bearing, but essentially it's just going to go inside of there. You're going to tighten this up so that these little arms spread out, and then you're just going to take it and just do this, and your bearing's going to come right out. So I'll show you guys how to use this, show you guys how to use the other tool, and it should be a pretty quick video. And again, I'm going to put the links below, so please use them. If you're going to plan to buy these tools, it really helps out the garage and helps us keep making cool videos for you guys like this one. So let's get to it. We'll start showing you how to use these. So we're going to pull this bearing out right here. If you notice, I like to put a mark on my bearings. That way I know if they're directional or one side is different than the other, you know exactly how it came out. So this one's pretty easy. If you have a socket, this is going to be a 19 millimeter laying around the garage. All you do is just set it on there. You could heat the case up if you want. I find that most of them don't need to be heated. So, and then you just come through and just give it a couple taps, and that's it. And your bearing's out. And we'll go ahead and find the replacement bearing for it. So these two bearings are going to be the same. There is an oil seal on one side of it that we don't have on this other bearing. So we're going to go ahead and set this in here. And we're going to set up the oil seal the same way this one's set up. And we're going to go back and get our tool again. And this one we're going to use, it looks like a 44.5 millimeter. So this one's a little bit smaller. Try to spin it so you can get a better view of what I'm doing here. And again, we're just going to take it and see if you can hear the tone change in it when it gets in there. So that's it. Got our bearings, these two bearings in there, and we're seated all the way right here, and we're flush there. All right, so if you can see, we're gonna be pulling this bearing right here. Now, there's no way to get to it from the other side, so it's called a blind hole. And so because it's a blind hole, we need a blind bearing puller tool so we can get this bearing out to replace it with this one. So what we're gonna do, and hopefully you'll be able to see here, we'll spin it like this to make it a little easier. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our tool, we're gonna close it up all the way, or open it up all the way, and we're gonna drop it in there. The next thing you do is just tighten it down by hand. Then what you're gonna wanna do is have 2 adjustable wrenches. You could use other wrenches if you don't have it. I just prefer to use these adjustables to make it easy. And we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna tighten this up. We're gonna hold the bottom piece with 1 wrench, and we're gonna tighten the other piece with the other one. And the bearing actually just kind of slid out just a little bit already, so I can kind of tell this one will be an easy one to pull out. So then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take our slide hammer, and all you're gonna do is just take this, you're gonna hold the case with 1 hand and just pop it out. Super, super easy. This one I kind of knew was gonna be an easy one to pop out because as I was tightening it, these pieces started to pull the bearing up. So really, that's it. All right, so we just pulled the bearing, the old bearing out, which is this one right here. And we're gonna be installing the new one, rubber side down. So we're just gonna use this tool here. It's super easy to use. All you need is a hammer and the tool. And basically what we're gonna do is we're just gonna set the bearing in there straight. Hopefully you can see, I'll zoom in on the camera here. And basically you're just gonna take your tool and you're gonna set it on there, and you're gonna wait to hear a tone change. You'll hear the difference between when you're hitting it and it's not bottomed out and when it bottoms out. So let's see if we can hear it as we're hitting it in there. Now the key also too is to make sure you get your bearing in there straight. If you can see this one, it might be hard. This one's sticking up a little bit more right here. So I'm gonna move the tool and I'm gonna kind of set the tool right here. So that way we kind of even the bearing out. So let me just do that. So we're just gonna slowly work it in there. And if you listen right now, you're gonna be able to hear the tone change of it. So just try to listen. You hear that? Did you hear the tone change? So that's when you know a bullet bearing is fully seated. So this tool, again, super easy to use, really great to have around the garage if you're pulling bearings and installing bearings. Of course, you could use a socket and set it on there and tap it in, but you run the risk of ruining a bearing, which I've done that before. So you don't want to do that. But yeah, bearings in there nice and flush and super good. All right, so that's it. I basically showed you my 2 tools here for pulling bearings. Again, check the link below. I'll have links to 2 quality ones that you can get below. We really appreciate you using those links to get your parts and tools and whatnot. Again, this one comes with a great case, all the different sizes for every size bearing you'd ever need to hit in, especially working on a motorcycle. And then you've got your slide hammer, blind hole bearing puller. And this one comes with 4 sizes. It's enough to get out pretty much every bearing that I've ever come across that's blind that needs to be removed. This one's been in the garage for 6, 7, 8 years, not even sure. It's been so long since I've got this, and it's worked every single time, and it still works every time. So again, don't forget to subscribe right about here. Click that, subscribe, please like, comment. I'm more than happy to answer your questions in the comment, and share with your friends. We're just trying to help everybody learn how to work on their own bikes and show some people some new things and parts and tools and all of that good stuff. So thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next video.